pharmacy, where healing happens right here in the kitchen and we use food as medicine. Today we're going to be preparing a Tex Mex Tofu Scramble. Tofu is a great substitute for eggs because it has that same texture once cooked, and it retains moisture and absorbs all the flavorings of the condiments that we're going to add. Now tofu, it's a better substitution to eggs because it's lower in fat, has no cholesterol, and it doesn't have any animal protein. So tofu comes in different varieties. For this recipe, you want to get the extra firm tofu that's packed in water and kept in the refrigerated section of your grocery store. Please don't confuse that with this type of tofu, the morinu or silken tofu. This tofu is better used for sauces or dressings. It's really not firm enough for a scramble. So what you need to do for this recipe is take your tofu out of the packet and drain it well. I've already done that with 2 packs of tofu, and if you drain it well, your cooking time will be greatly diminished. So we're going to take one block and we're going to cut it into small cubes. So the way that I do it is I cut it this way, then lengthwise, and then little cubes like that. We're going to add it to a wok, stainless steel wok, or a pan, a skillet, depending on how much you're making. Again, try not to use any Teflon or aluminum cookware. So let's do the same here. This tofu has been draining there for about half an hour, so it's much easier to do it that way. But if you're in a rush, don't worry, just pat dry with a paper towel after you take it out of the strainer, and just cook it for like 5 minutes longer to get more of that liquid absorbed. Okay, so notice we're not adding any oil or liquid to the pan. We're going to cook the tofu dry. So let's go ahead and take it to the stove. So you want to cook the tofu medium heat for about 5-10 minutes just to get any extra moisture out of it, and also to change the texture of it a little bit to be more like eggs. So we're going to do that, and it's going to cook in its all moisture. So let's do that. Cover it. So while the tofu is cooking, we're going to talk about the vegetables we're going to put in the scramble. We'll start off with some onions. Now the onions are cancer fighting with the allicin, antiviral and antibacterial. So we're going to cut that up into small pieces. Same with some peppers. If you like spicy, you can use spicy peppers or chiles, jalapenos, anything you want to add there to give it more flavor. Okay. The peppers. I've already crushed fresh garlic, and we want to keep it out for 5 minutes to retain some of that allicin. Add it there. Alright, so now let's talk about mushrooms. We have some white mushrooms, and mushrooms are fat-free. They're very low in calories, so a great substitute for meat in a lot of recipes. Also, they contain good quantity of selenium, which is good for prostate health. Also some riboflavin, niacin, vitamin D, and it's also a free radical fighter. And studies have shown that women that consume the equivalent of 1 mushroom a day lower their risk for breast cancer by about 69%. So go ahead and add those mushrooms to all the recipes. So we're going to slice that up. Now I do encourage you to eat them cooked. Okay, so we have that. Now let's get the kale ready. So we're going to eat our greens with breakfast. What better way than to add some kale here? So kale is a green vegetable. It's from the Brassica family. It's a cruciferous vegetable, and it contains sulforaphane phytochemicals. This is the same family as cabbage and cauliflower, collard greens. So it's a good free radical hunter as well. and it also contains flavonoids that help healthy skin and healthy vision. So it's good for cardiac health. It promotes prevention of cancer, good to prevent anemia, and as well as strong bones. So let's go ahead and eat some kale every day. I add it to my salads all the time. So here you want to get some of the leaves off of the stem. You don't want to use the stem, it's too tough, not very digestible. So you can either do this with a knife, or if your kale is fresh, you know, with your hands, you can just kind of break off the leaves, and that's fine too. If you're going to get your kids involved in the kitchen, this is a great job for them. Get your kale. And they love to play with the little stems too. Okay, so we got all of our kale leaves ready. Now I encourage you to cut it as you use it. Don't pre-cut it or don't buy it pre-cut, because all the nutrition is really hidden inside these little veins here. And once you cut it, it starts to leach out into the surface. So it's better to just cut it as you're going to use it to retain all that nutrition. Okay, so now you can just plump it up into one big bunch here. Cut it up. Again, it's wilts when it's cooked like spinach, so even though it looks like a lot, you'll see once you cook it, it's going to cook down quite a bit. And we're going to cook it add it to the recipe at the end so that it slightly cooks, slightly steams, not overcooking it. So we have some corn here that we've used, frozen corn, organic of course, GMO free. Okay, so let's go ahead and check on that tofu. Okay, so the tofu has been cooking for about 5-10 minutes. Now we're going to season the tofu. So you can add some sea salt and herba mary. I like to use herba mary for my seasoning. And to give it color, to give it that yellow color traditional from scrambled eggs, we're going to add some turmeric. And turmeric also has healing properties to it, antibacterial, antiviral. So the color of it is activated as you cook it. So you just keep on mixing in the tofu with the spices and add turmeric to taste. Cooking at medium, and you can break apart, you know, some of the tofu, give it more of that scrambled egg look. Now this recipe, it's great by itself, but another idea is to make a breakfast burrito. So if you get a whole grain tortilla, add some salsa, it's also, you know, great. So I usually make a big batch and use it in different recipes throughout the week. Okay, so you're going to cook it with the turmeric for a minute or two. Now we're going to add our onions and peppers and the garlic here. See, that's why we don't want to add those in the beginning, because you don't want to overcook your vegetables. You're cooking them right after you get all that moisture out of the tofu and the tofu slightly cooked. Stir that. Okay, so let's cover that and cook it for a couple minutes, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. All right, so that's out the mushrooms. Stir that in well. And now let's add some corn. And the vegan chorizo, Tofurky brand. Here it comes already shredded. And notice that chorizo has that unique Tex Mex flavor, so it's great to add here. But if you want to make this gluten-free, just go ahead and omit the chorizo. Another thing is that chorizo does have a little bit of salt in it, so keep that in mind when you're seasoning your scramble, because if you don't, it's going to be too salty. Blend that in so it gives it a little bit of color and flavor. Another thing you can add here is black beans or pinto beans. So that adds a little bit more fiber and more protein. So feel free to add that at this stage as well. Alright, so let's cover that for a couple more minutes. Alright, let's add some pepper here to taste. And we're going to place the kale right on top of the tofu, just so that it lightly steams with the moisture of the vegetables. You can add a little bit of brags here to the kale, cover it, and cook it for no more than 2-3 minutes. All right, let's check on that tofu scramble. Look, the kale is nice and green. We want to keep that so that we're retaining all the minerals and vitamins and phytochemicals. So you want to mix it well now. It's all ready. So we're going to serve it with some whole grain toast. Beautiful. I wish you could smell this. This is really great.